Doing? This is a great turnout, so thank you all so much for coming today. Your feedback is so important to us, and we're going to get started in a few. I know we have some people trickling in, and if we need to pull out a few more seats, we can do that. But I just wanted to go over some quick housekeeping before we get started. We do have restrooms. You're going to go out to the hallway here and make a right, and you'll see them. We have coffee and donuts. Please don't be shy. Get caffeinated, get some sugar in your system, be ready to make some comments because we want to hear from you. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and welcome Mayor Michael O'Connor to the podium to get started today.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to need this water. I want to first say thank you to the Asian American Center for giving us access to this space this morning. We very much appreciate that ongoing partnership. We are here to have a conversation, hear from you about how the city can best do the work it needs to do in the 2026 General Assembly session on behalf of our community. This is a process that has evolved over many years. We always have held a meeting with our legislative delegation. In the past, we used to do that in December, and that was often a really short time frame and ramp up to the work that needed to be done in Annapolis when the General Assembly session opens in January. We've tried to move that process back a little bit so that we have time to more thoughtfully develop our legislative priorities and also, frankly, to give our delegation the opportunity to do what they need to do in advance of them hitting the ground running in January. We're looking at how we can share information about what the community's priorities are and look at where those opportunities for us to seek state support for funding requests rests. We have been successful over the last couple of years in revising this process, I think, and it's produced strong results for Frederick City and for Frederick County in working with our delegation. I do want to acknowledge that our council president, Katie Nash, is in the room with us this evening as well, or this morning. Your input and feedback on this process is really important because these legislative priorities, we certainly want them to be what the executive branch wants, what the legislative branch wants, but as importantly, perhaps more importantly, we want them to reflect what the community has identified as their needs. And we have an advocacy team that works with us at the state, and we want to make sure that they're well prepared as well as we move into the General Assembly session. Why is this important for the city of Frederick? Well, this state funding, it's about us getting back what we think our fair share is of the taxes and the revenue that gets generated from Frederick and goes down the road. It's supporting critical infrastructure, it's supporting education initiatives, healthcare initiatives, community development projects. There's a strong economic impact. This state funding often helps our local businesses to grow. It stimulates our nonprofit community job creation and helps us in attracting new businesses to our community. And maybe most importantly, we're trying to make sure that everything that we do in local government is enhancing the quality of life of our residents across a broad spectrum of needs and interests in this community. And so as we can build services and improve that overall quality of life for our residents, that's a win for all of us that are working together to try and do that on behalf of our community. We can get funding for projects through a number of different vehicles. The first and often the best is being able to make those direct requests from the governor and have the governor put that funding in his budget. That is a process that, frankly, is starting already. We have to have those conversations early. The state is building its budget. We need requests into them in October for them to have any opportunity of being in the governor's proposed budget. They're generally higher ticket items, and it's trying to meet the governor's goals and priorities as well and selling him on projects that we want to achieve in the city. We will work as well with our legislative delegation in Annapolis. We are in District 3, so that is State Senator Karen Lewis Young and delegates Chris Fair, Karen Simpson, and Ken Kerr. We have forged strong relationships with all of those individuals. They work together well as a team, and we work with them to bring forward those items that we've identified as priorities. Legislative bond initiatives generally can't reach the dollar amount that the governor may be willing to fund outright in his budget, but they are still critically important to the organizations that receive them, and often highly competitive in terms of being able to make the case for inclusion in the state's budget when that ultimately comes to fruition. And then finally, it's the process that we work through with various state agencies and departments. There are allocations of dollars in the state's budget that we can make a pitch for, and the best opportunities we have to do that is when we can forge strong partnerships and build great collaborative relationships between our public, private, nonprofit sectors on projects that we've identified as critically important, whether that's the Department of Housing and Community Development, project like the funding that we got last year through the Maryland Stadium Authority, Maryland Department of Transportation. They were just in town last night to hear the community's broad wish list of transportation priorities. So lots of opportunities to make these asks. We want to just give you a sense of some of the projects that we've had some success on over the last few years. Notably, we got more than $4 million for the new police headquarters project in downtown Frederick through the state. We've gotten substantial support from the governor's office and the delegation for our downtown hotel and conference center project. Also funding through the Department of Housing and Community Development. So that's one of those agency asks that has benefited us. The Maryland Stadium Authority, which I mentioned before, has provided the funding for the improvements to Harry Grove Stadium, which will allow for affiliated minor league baseball to return to our community. And then we've worked through that legislative bond initiative process to bring in nearly $1 million, $750,000 for traffic calming efforts. Speeding and traffic calming remain probably the most persistent concern that we get from neighborhoods and communities all across the city of Frederick, as well as what we can do to enhance transportation alternatives and connections across our community. Funding for the youth center, which is proposed for Scotty's Bus Lane off Jefferson Street in downtown Frederick, and $200,000 to renovate 100 South Market Street to improve the services offered through our community table. You may know this more familiarly as the soup kitchen, but we're trying to reimagine what those services need to look like on behalf of those residents. And then in terms of transportation, really fortunate to have the state support the continued design and engineering for the Route 15 widening project, that safety project through the heart of the city, and to ensure that the out-year funding, last night we heard that the objective is to begin construction in 2028 to move that important safety and transportation project forward. So how can you help? Well, you're here today, so thank you so much. I know that as nonprofit managers, at advocates, employees working in all of these, that your time is precious, and coming to a meeting like this to tell us what you think, we want it to be valuable for you. So your input really is important as we work through this process. So we're seeking in-person feedback here, but if you go to the QR code, there is an opportunity for you to provide additional information through a survey that we have provided as well. So I would encourage you or a representative of your organization to please scan this so that even if you decide you don't want to come to the microphone today and speak, that opportunity will exist for you to have your input included as part of our conversation. And that's the end of my presentation. So now we are here to hear from you. We have a microphone in the front. We'd ask you to please come forward and identify yourself, just so that we have that for everyone's benefit. And I'll let you self-organize, but the floor is yours. Somebody needs to not be shy and go first.
Good morning. My name is Louise Kennelly. I'm with the Frederick Arts Council. And when you go around to legislators, we hope that you'll ask for funding for the Maryland State Arts Council. They fund a lot of our members' programming, and they fund, of course, the Frederick Arts Council. And they are an economic engine for our community, and any support that you can help gather and apply for the Maryland State Arts Council support, we would appreciate it. And then on the capital projects front, we'd love to do more public art in this part of town, the west side of the city. If we could be included for public art projects, a capital project, that would be fantastic, and we can talk about that in more detail.
Thank you. It's going to be a super short meeting. Your time really is valuable.
I'm Mark Cram. I'm the Communications Marketing Director for the Asian American Center of Frederick. I spent 40 years covering Frederick in the news from WHAG Channel 25. So covered a lot of issues covering this area, familiar with very well the community and its growth. The growth is just unparalleled. Obviously, one of the asks for the legislature is, keep in mind that federal funding was cut. One of the themes that I think probably everybody here has on their minds, but they haven't stepped up to say it, is our annual health fair, which was held every October for the last 17 years. I covered that event the first year, 18 years ago, as a news reporter to let the public know it was there. It's a shame that it had to be mothballed. I used that term recently, and some younger people said, what's it mean to be mothballed? Well, we're not going to say that we ended it, but certainly suspended it for this year. What we've heard from the community is a lot of response that, how do we bring that back? And so perhaps that's something the state can think about, helping this community reinstitute the health fair. There were 70 agencies and organizations that were involved with that, so it wasn't just AACF. Yes, AACF was the leader in organizing it and coordinating it, but 69 other groups were involved with that. So it's an important event. Certainly that was the first entree for a lot of people, especially immigrants who didn't understand the American health system or the insurance system or how all this worked. And it gave them an opportunity to get immunizations and the entree to health services. So anyway, that's what's top of mind for me.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Serena Balassi, and I'm the coordinator for the Ride United Network at United Way of Frederick County. I'm here today to share with you some of the priorities we hope you'll focus on when it comes to the area of transportation. First, to support more bus shelters along high traffic areas, especially like the Golden Mile, so that riders can wait with dignity and safety. Second, we hope that you will seize the opportunity with the redevelopment of Route 15 to create safer crossings for bicyclists and pedestrians. Third, we hope that you'll invest in microtransit opportunities such as the Ride United network so that we can meet the gaps where traditional transit cannot meet. To date, we have given over 30,000 rides, 58% of which in the city of Frederick, showing that the need is real. When we invest in transportation equity, we invest in the success, health, and resilience of every resident. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening or afternoon. Bob Roby, East Side resident, and I would like to remind the community of how important the East Street corridor is. It's a gateway entrance into our city, And we are doing significant development along that corridor, and it's vitally important that we have the re-envisioned transportation plan for our East Street corridor executed, so any monies we can get from the state to help accelerate that project would be appreciated.
Thank you.
Good morning. Danielle Haskin. I first wanted to thank you for forming the PACT and understanding the challenges, both locally, state, and federally, that we're facing with healthcare and health access. I'd like you to consider, I'm not sure which priority it sets in, but looking into the federally qualified healthcare clinic. I know there's significant challenges there. We're on quite a wait right now, but so many people do use that as a medical home. And so however we can work together, whether it's city-county partnerships, I'm more than happy to kind of talk about what that looks like and how we can expand access and expand capacity of that health clinic.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning. I'm Amanda Whitener from Woman to Woman Mentoring. And as you embark on your journey with the delegation, just to remind you of the importance of emphasizing the need for continued advocacy for diversity, equity, and inclusion conversations, using that in language, including that in the conversation, prioritizing that as you're able to.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, thank you so much for having us here today. Maria Herrera with the Spanish community. I know that you've mentioned before that you are very concerned about our international families and the crisis that they're facing today. And I know that you've expressed some interest in maybe helping out some of these families. I just want to reiterate again that our families are suffering. There's a lot of deportations going on. I was on my phone this morning right now. I wasn't trying to be rude. I have a family that just 2 people got deported, and there's a lot of children that are being left behind with a lot of needs. So I hope that you consider some of that funding for some of these families. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your service and for your vision and for what you've done for our town. I'd like to advocate for the sports mural and for AAOE. Now, the city has helped us a great deal with AAOE, but the sports mural would like some help with that, with the state.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tiana Massacoy, and I am just here to ask for support for youth mentoring. As we know, young people are experiencing a record number of challenges, not just in school, but also in the community. And the more supports that we have to support young people on the ground, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Darby Swanson with Habitat for Humanity, Frederick County. We draw a lot on resources from the city and the county, but anything that we can get at the state level, whether it's a capital investment for a new project or relief of some kind for our homeowners, both those aging in place that we're able to work with through our home repair program, or those who, once they buy an affordable home, still have the rising costs that go along with staying in that home. And I don't know exactly what is available at the state level, but I know that that is something that the governor is extremely interested in, and I know that our Frederick elected officials are as well. So, affordable housing, home ownership.
Thank you. Anyone else? It's almost like you have my agenda. You knew exactly what was coming next. So we very much appreciate the input, and I certainly hope that all of the organizations, even those that maybe didn't take time to speak today, will use the code that we provided earlier. Can we throw that back up again in case anybody missed it, to provide that input? We're going to obviously coalesce all the information that we received. We did one of these last week where we're talking to members of our business community as well. Different conversations and different needs, but we need to look at all of what we are capable of in having those conversations with our delegation. Our annual legislative breakfast with the Frederick County delegation is Thursday, October the 9th at 9 o'clock in the boardroom at City Hall. That is a public meeting, so anyone is certainly invited to come and watch, and whether we televise that live or we'll tape it, I'm not quite sure. I think we televise it live. So if you can't make the meeting, you certainly watch those, watch that conversation as well. By the 9th, our objective is to sort of pull together what we've heard from the community and to present those to the delegation. We also want to hear from the delegation about priorities that they have perhaps established so that we can figure out how to best support what our delegation wants to accomplish. It's important to understand that for that meeting, we invite the entire Frederick County delegation, and that includes everyone who represents District 4, which is most of the county outside of the city of Frederick. I'm not including the northern part of Frederick County, which is actually located in Legislative District 2, which is primarily represented by individuals elected from Hagerstown and Washington County, and then a single election precinct in the area of Mount Airy that pulls in potential members of the Legislative 5, District 5 members. We obviously have talked to all of them. There's 15 of them altogether, but our primary focus, because it's where we've had the best success, is working directly with our District 3 delegations, because they have been our biggest champions and advocates on the work that we do. So the objective of that meeting is to hopefully present our ideas, hear from them, and see what kind of we take clues from them very seriously, because they have a sense of what is possible and what may be more challenging. It's important to recognize that 2026 is an election year in the state of Maryland, and anyone who's followed the General Assembly for any amount of time knows that there's a rhythm to the four-year cycle. And the fourth year, when they're actually in re-election mode, it presents its own dynamics. There's also the lingering issues of the state's budget and what impact that may or may not have. There was an announcement, I think, made earlier this week that, at least on paper, they've got a surplus that they think they're working with. That seems counterintuitive, given that they spent the entire last session talking about, a pretty substantial deficit. So how those conversations shake out. What we want to make sure is that we're at the table, that we're advocating on behalf of our residents when it comes to capital asks, that we're not being left on the sidelines. And when it comes to specific legislative asks, laws that we want to change, things that we think the legislature can do that make your work easier, make our collective work easier, that's where our focus is. So the next big opportunity for the community to be a part of this process will be that October 9th meeting with our delegation at City Hall in Frederick. After that, we'll take the advice that we get from our delegation members, and we'll refine our legislative asks. We'll be more specific. We'll go, if necessary, to look for individual sponsors of the delegation as a whole where appropriate, and then it's all eyes on the opening of the General Assembly in January. The benefit that I think the city has realized over the last several years with having an advocacy team working on our behalf, in addition to all of us as elected officials and our delegation, is just one more pair of eyes and feet on the ground who really understand the nuances and the ins and outs of a legislative process that is not intuitive to anybody who isn't walking the halls of Annapolis every day for those 90 days. And we think the proof is somewhat in the financial support that we've gotten over the last couple of years, but I think what we've come to realize that it's not enough to ask for money. We need to look for what the actual policy and legislative initiatives are. And we heard about those today, things like healthcare and transportation, public art. These are all critical issues for our community, and to the degree that we can forge better partnerships with our delegation to move legislative action that can help out our nonprofit communities that are working in these areas, I think is critically important. So that gives you a sense of what's to come. We didn't necessarily build in time for, Q&A, but we have time. If there's anything that people want to know and we can provide you with more information, we're certainly happy to try and do that now. But if there aren't any questions, we certainly look forward to continued outreach and communication with us, working with our delegation, the meeting on the 9th of October, critically important, and keeping the ongoing conversations. I think we've really tried to make a more concerted effort over the last year plus to really engage more with communities in Frederick, particularly in light of, and it was brought up, the changes at the federal level. We know that there's greater responsibility now than there's ever been on local governments potentially having to pick up the pieces of what the federal government has decided that they're not going to participate in or do anymore. And that puts unexpected strain. Like everyone's budget, the government's budget is not unlimited either. And so we're going to have to think creatively, we're going to have to be innovative. But I know that working with great partners that we can make progress, the progress that we know we need to make. Well, once again, really appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm sure that there's more donuts in those boxes and more coffee in the boxes as well. Please don't force my staff to take them back to the office and eat them. They would hate that. Thank you all so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.